Surging Sparks is right around the corner, and this video is going to tell you every single competitive Pokemon TCG card you're going to need to succeed in the future. My name is Rahul Reddy, and today we're going to be talking about my competitive Surging Sparks set list buy list. These are the cards that I'm going to be picking up to compete in regionals, internationals, and potentially the world championships. Coming up with these cards, I put everything together in a wonderful spreadsheet for you guys that I'll have in the link down in the comments below, or the bio below, whatever, description, whatever you want to call it, where you can click, get the exact card you need, add it to your cart, and go from there. You can also click on my TCG player affiliate link in the comments. Fill up your cart and check out when Surging Sparks releases. Note, please don't buy anything at pre-sale. I don't think it's worth it. Just wait for the cards to be released, or support your local stores as well. I think that's also an excellent thing to do. If your local stores have them early, just be aware of what you're paying for these cards, because a lot of these cards are not going to be that expensive. You should be able to get everything you need for probably below $50. Maybe Pikachu's going to be a little expensive. It's been a long time since we have had a good Pikachu. So that being said, let's jump into the video. Please like and subscribe. It did take me quite a while to put this together, and I'm going to go through it one by one with you guys. Pokemon.com has done a great job of putting the scans up early for us this time around, which is awesome. So we can look at these wonderful new arts in high definition, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and go through them in type order, in like set order, I guess, instead of my normal thing. So Execute I have under must buy, because I think if you're going to play Executor, which I think is a pretty good deck or a pretty good option, as soon as Manaphy, or not Manaphy, coming into the next format, whatever, or even now with V's, I think Execute's pretty good. And this Precocious Evolution one is really, really good for the deck, because you can just make that Execute into an Executor off the rip, and all of a sudden your opponent has to be staring down this evolution that you can just attack with on like turn one. So this guy becomes a 4 of, I think, in a deck, so you have to pick up 4 of these. Should be a couple pennies, if anything. Skipping ahead, this Durant, I think, is a spicy-ish pickup. I think Sudden Shearing is a pretty cool ability, where you can basically just discard the top card while benching it. I guess you can only use this 4 times, unless you can consistency loop it somehow. But I think being able to discard even 5 cards in a majority of situations could be pretty good. Or you can throw this into a control deck, where now you have like Durant plus Cape becomes like a penny loop target. So every time you put the Durant back down, you can mill another card. So it kind of speeds up the process of the game. I mean, I don't know if it's better than 0-6 Scheme necessarily, but I think this card is like pretty spicy and pretty decent in its own right, for what I think it should be. The other grass types are not very notable to write home about. I do think this art's pretty funny. I just want to make a note of this. I think the Rellor and the Rabsca line are always just so goofy to me. This Wo-Chan is actually pretty decent as well. I think Hazardous Greed, being able to do 120 to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon is pretty significant. I don't know what deck would utilize this, but I think once Manaphy rotates, this card becomes significantly better, because at the end of the game, you can just be like, well, okay, I've already done a ton of damage. Let me just close out the game with this Wo-Chan. So I think this is like a spicy pick. I put it in my must buy, but I think spicy pick is fine. The fire types are pretty underwhelming early on, but then we come to this line over here. I don't know what the optimal Charcadet is. I think there's other 70 HP Charcadets as well. So I guess just pick a 70 HP one and call it a day there. But I think Cerulege is really, really good. I think Abyssal Flames is a really good attack, 30 plus 20 for each energy in your discard pile. You can play a very aggressive deck that just ramps energy into your discard pile. Play cards like that Mixer, the new ace spec in this set. Just get to very high numbers very quickly. 207 HP on a stage 1 Terra also makes you pretty bulky and hard to deal with in a lot of situations. And from there, you just can do a lot of damage for very little effort, and your deck is very streamlined in terms of what it wants to do, which makes it really cool. And I think this deck could be very powerful in the current landscape of the game. So I think this card is really, really good for what it is. Scovillian, I think, is pretty much a trap. I wouldn't buy into this. I think Milotic could be really good. I've seen some control decks with Milotic, because you can go into the Sparkling Scales ability and make it so you have another new wall added to your collection, where it's like, now you have Mimikyu, which is walled from Rulebox Pokemon, or not Rulebox, EX Pokemon and V Pokemon, and then you have Milotic, which is barred from Terra Pokemon, but also becomes an attacker, because now you can attack with Hypno Splash as you're setting up stuff. So if your opponent has something that's not a Terra Pokemon, it's an attacker, you can actually respond into it with Hypno Splash. So now your walls style deck becomes a little bit more aggressive, rather than just being able to use Cornerstone, which was a little bit mediocre for what it was. But now Milotic is a little bit beefier as well, so now you have Milotic that's thicker. So I think this card is pretty good. Water types for the most part are also all mediocre. I think this Black Kyurem is pretty good. I don't know how long Dragon types will be good, but I mean, because Regidrago will rotate coming up soon. But for the time being, if Regidrago continues to be a problem or Dragapult continues to be a problem, Black Kyurem could be a really good tech card to use Ice Age against these cards. Something like Lugia could slot this in pretty easily. Something like Palkia could slot this in pretty easily, make for a better matchup into those things, a better matchup spread in general. Most of these decks don't have a ton of switch cards, so being able to have this option is really good, I think. Here we have the flagship card of the set, Pikachu. I think this card is absolutely broken. I think Resolute Heart is an insanely good ability. Yes, there's workarounds. Yes, people can play stuff like Dusknoir and spread attacks and whatever, but it puts them onto the onus of having to do that. And if you can put a Pikachu into play and power it up in the same turn, your opponent can't really pop it in the same turn unless they have a Dusknoir or Duskull ready to go, or a Cologne or something. So I think Pikachu is absolutely turbo broken. I believe the hype. I'm all in on this card. I think this is very, very good. I think Magneton is a great partner for the card with the overall discharge card. So you can just power up one Pikachu out of nowhere. You can power up another Pikachu with a different method or means. But I think just being able to use one Magneton per game in a 2-prize deck like maybe Dawn or something, I don't even know, doesn't even seem that bad because you can set people onto an off-prize trade and all of a sudden your Magneton has powered up your entire board and you solve the issue of missing energy attachments for decks like those. I think Rotom is also really good with the Crush Pulse attack. I don't know how useful this will be right now in the landscape of the game because it doesn't target supporters, but I think Crushing Pulse could be really good in a format where we're playing a lot more items and a lot more tools because you can just go into the Rotom, clear your opponent's hand, and go from there. So it's on my spicy pick list. Yeah. Togekiss is also under my spicy pick list because I think Wonder Kiss is a really unique ability because you can flip a coin to try to take an extra prize, but on a stage 2 it feels like a really heavy investment. So maybe like I've seen some Togekiss like Milotic decks and Tatsugiri with Togekiss most notably. So those decks I think could be pretty good, but otherwise I don't see a lot of world for it. So I don't think it's like necessarily a must buy. Like you need this card, it's going to be good, but I think it's a cute enough card that could do some damage. I didn't put a Zoomer on the list, but I think this card could be pretty cool because you can just double edge for one Psychic. But the problem is you take 50 damage back to yourself, and you're really flimsy into a lot of decks. So it's like you're not actually going to be able to chain a Zoomer like you need. But it seems like a funny deck to play. That's my like 2 cents on this. Latias, I think, is in the must-buy category. This card is absolutely broken. I think a lot of decks that have a lot of basics are going to benefit from this greatly because switching and rotating and pivoting is a big issue for a lot of these decks with big basics, and having cards like Latias seems very, very strong for that. And then you have Eon Blade as well, which is like a really good attack as well if you're playing Psychic Energy in some capacity. Like 200 is quite a bit of damage. Yes, 2 Psychic, 1 colorless is a little bit annoying. If it was 1 Psychic, 2 colorless, I think it would be just an insanely broken attack. But I think this card is really, really good, and it's in the must-buy category for me. I think Sylveon is in the at-risk category. I think this card is okay, but Angelite is just such a weird energy requirement, and I think that while the attack is really cool, I just don't think it does enough to the big threats because you're never actually dealing with the active unless you can gust it, so you have to play like heavy bundle at that point. And then I don't even know if like I don't know if it's like that good. I don't think the investment putting in to try to get to Angelite deals with the aggressive decks that still exist in the format. I just think it's not worth it. Yeah, I just don't think it's worth it. Same with the Palossand. I think it's the same thing where I think it's not worth it to get to Barite Jail. And then once you get to Barite Jail, it's like your opponent can just stagger, and all of a sudden the Barite Jail just doesn't do anything. So it just doesn't beat a good player in my opinion. Keeping it going. Flygon again is another card where I think it's like Sonic Peridot seems pretty cool, but then at the same time, Manaphy and Bench Barrier cards exist. So at that point, you really can't spread. And then a lot of the EX Pokemon in the format also have Terra, which means that they can't get bench damaged. So like on top of that, your Sonic Peridot is not going to be able to do damage to a lot of these things, like Teal Mask, for example. So it's just like, why is this card even relevant in general? I actually did not put this in the list. I'm going to go add this to the list right now. Gastrodon is going to go into the must-buy category for sure. This card is absolutely... Like, let me just make a thing right now of where it would be. Where it would be above the dragons, right? Insert 1 row above. I'm going to put in 3. I'm going to go get a link for this guy later. But Gastrodon is super broken. I think Sticky Bind is a really cool attack. Or not ability. Sorry, not attack, ability. And I think it can lean into some of these stage 2 lock decks. When I saw this card, I was really underwhelmed by it, and you guys in the comments came in full force and told me how broken it was, and I actually like had to stop and think about it, and I was like, I'm not a control player, so I've never thought about it in that regard, but this seems kind of good. This seems like it would be really, really strong in what it's supposed to do. Keeping the buck going. I think this guy could be a spicy pickup. I don't have it on the list. It just replaces the other Crydon. Because then now you get another attacker in Ancient Box that isn't energy capped, basically. So this guy could make it space in terms of the Walking Wake slot. And Unrelenting Onslaught is like a pretty good attack for 180. But I don't know. I'm not an Ancient Box player. I think that deck is pretty mid. I put Hydreigon and Must Buy because I think Crashing Headbutt is a pretty good attack. Pretty insane attack, actually. Especially because you can play like Mochi and Peturant, putting you at 240 for Crashing Headbutt, as well as other cards like Dark Patch and aggressive pieces to basically just make your damage ramp up. And then if you can ever get to Obsidian efficiently, then you can Obsidian your opponent's entire board. But you don't even need to do that. I think Crashing Headbutt is like a significant amount of damage, and discarding 3 cards is quite relevant, I think, in a lot of matchups, because a lot of decks need resources to close out games. So you can just Crashing Headbutt, deal with their active threat, and discard 3 cards at the same time. I think that's really, really strong in terms of what you're trying to do in terms of the game. Moving forward, I think Archaludon is really good with the Assemble Alloy ability and Metal Defender. The Duraludon from this set is actually not the optimal one. I think the Stellar Crown one is. But either way, this card is really good, I think, because 220 is just a thick amount of damage. You have 300 HP on a stage 1. You're so beefy. This card just, in my opinion, has to be good. It's so simple. It does so much damage. And I think it just has to be good for those 2 simple reasons. Like, I don't think it needs to be flashy. I just think it has to do its job, which I think it does quite well, and it self-accelerates, which is like another really insane aspect to it. Executor, I think, is really good. I think Tropical Frenzy is cute if you can get this attack off, but I think Swinging Sphene is actually really cool because a lot of decks play a bunch of basics, so you just basically get a free 2 prizers on either the active or the bench quite a bit of the time, which I really like. And this guy can slot into Drago pretty well. I think you pick up 2 or 3 of these to play the deck with your executes. But I think this could be a really good deck when it actually comes out. Tatsugiri is also kind of like a play at your own risk type of thing. I think this Cinnabar Lore attack is really cool, but at the same time, I don't know if the cost to get to the Cinnabar Lore deck and then the RNG of like hitting the exact things you need is even worth playing at that point. This Eevee will also make its way into the list once I remember to put it in, but I think Boosted Evolution has to pretty much be good because it's like you can basically evolve at the turn you play it or your first turn. So this Eevee could just become an attacker immediately. And I don't know what Eevees are going to have like attacks yet, but every time an Eevee's had an ability like this, it's always just been kind of broken. I think we'll see something cool in the new mini set from Eevees later on, so I think it's worth investing in this. Let me add this to the list right now too, so I can come back here. Let's just put it at 4. We can come back and do this and get the Eevee. I think that the Slaking, even though it's a really cool, it's like 340 HP stage 2, has a really unique ability. And the attack is 280 for 2, which is quite a bit of damage. I just don't think it's worth it on a stage 2 Pokemon. Eventually, I think it could be really good. But at the time being, I just don't think it's worth it, especially because Slakoth only hits 60 HP, which makes it super easy and vulnerable to get picked off by things like Dragapult and Regidrago. The rest of these are all pretty bad cards, in my opinion. They're pretty risky, etc. Then we come to the trainers. So as you guys know, the trainer supporter stadiums, I usually pick up the max copies of them just in case, even if it's a terrible one. But you don't have to. You don't have to do that because I just carry everything with me just in case. It's something I do as a personal choice. You guys don't have to. Here's what I'm going to tell you to pick up from these. All the A-Specs you're going to pick up for sure. No reason for you to not have the A-Specs. They're just, you never know when a situation is going to arise when you want to play Amulet of Hope or Brilliant Bender in your deck. I said it wrong. I'm just done. But the berries, I think, are absolutely terrible, but you can pick them up if you want. Call Bell, I think, is a pretty unique card. It could be really good, depending on what deck you're playing. So I might pick these up myself. I think Call Bell is pretty okay. The Chill Teaser Toy is absolutely terrible. Same with Clamont's Quick Wit. Counter Gain is really good. I think you should pick up some Counter Gains. Serrano is pretty good. I think you should pick up Serranos. They get 3 EXs. These next 3 are pretty bad. I think Drayton could be really unique. It's like Bill's Analysis back in the day. It's like a 5th supporter of something because you can get a Pokemon and a trainer, but I don't know if it's any better than just like Earter, playing an Earter or an Arven off the rip. Dust Ball is also unique because Dust Ball is just a reverse of Great Ball, but if you got Ionode, you know exactly what you're doing. So it's like, oh, I'm like Lugia and I got Ionode, and my Lumineon went to the bottom of the deck. Let me just Dusk Ball for it, and I get there and get my Lumineon, win the game, etc. Right? Apex again, grab them all. I think the two stadiums, Gravity Mountain and Lively Stadium, are both pretty insane for what they're supposed to do. I think Gravity Mountain plus Pikachu is like a pretty obvious combo. But yeah, I would try that out in general. Meddling Memo, I think, also is really good. I would pick up 4 copies of these. I think Surfer is pretty good and Terra Orb is pretty good. Yeah, that kind of sums it up. I wanted to speed run through the trainers because I think those are pretty obvious that you're going to pick these up. Yeah, but if you guys enjoyed this, like and subscribe. And some of these alt arts, I'm just going to go through these because I like to do that as well while I'm here for the collection. I think this Execute definitely goes into the binder. I like the Pavilion quite a bit as well. Same with Castform. Shinotic is a little freaky looking, so I'm probably not getting that guy. Ceruledge, actually, dude, all these look so cool. I mean, not Bruxish. Not Bruxish. Not a big Mesprit. I'm not a big Lake Spirit fan, so like whatever. The Clobbopus has got to be one of my favorites. The Clobbopus or Phanpy is probably my favorite out of this. Look, this is so beautiful. My sister's favorite animal is an elephant as well, so it's like a unique thing for me. And then this guy's just like, they're all vibing. It's like it's a pod of Clobbopus, you know. The apples keep getting some of the most S tier arts, and then we have a bunch of the full arts here. Supporter wise, I think they all look pretty cool. I think that this set of 3 right here, like these 3 plus this one, like this is just got to be one of the most beautiful cards like I've ever seen. Like I've seen someone pull it in person. It's just so gorgeous. I just think these are absolutely beautiful, and I would love to have these in my possession. Same with Lol and Egg, but that's the video, guys. Thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys for the next video.